Sales are in for the month of July. Honda, Hyundai, Subaru, Mazda beating the industry right now, especially if we look at Subaru and Mazda. Hyundai, a little bit of a mixed bag as well if you include Kia and Genesis. But Toyota here, Toyota just posted a 17% increase in Q1 profit. Now, Q1 is not the calendar year, that's the fiscal year we're talking about here. So that would be April to the end of June, I believe, posting $8.7 billion in profits. I believe this is a record for them for a Q1 operating profit. Despite the rise in these brands, with the drawbacks in other big brands, we are only going to see a 1 to 3% rise in the market this past July, which this should be full guns blazing. We're out of the pandemic. We're out of all the chip shortages in theory. We're out of all the parts shortages. Again, in theory, we should be guns blazing, but the market, in my opinion, is capped right now on affordability. High sticker prices, high interest rates is going to prevent the industry from having growth sectors. And instead, we're going to see these inventories actually dwindle back down. These manufacturers are going to cut production. Nissan, for example, all over the world has been cutting production. We know it's going to start happening. Some brands faster than others. Stellantis, I'm pretty sure it's going to be happening. Cutting production so they are not losing too much money. Why would they be losing money? Well, if they have a bunch of product that isn't moving fast enough, they're going to have to incentivize the car in order to get it sold. All right. And we're seeing huge incentives with EVs. And we'll talk about incentives in this article today. But after we touch on this article, we'll go over to Honda. We'll go over to Mazda. We'll go over to Hyundai, Kia, Subaru as well. We'll talk about which cars are doing well, how they're shaping up. And we're just past the halfway mark. We're 7 months past in the year of 2024. And the auto market is at a tipping point. How much is it going to grow anymore from here, or is it just going to keep shrinking until the economy improves? Let's start with the big dog Toyota. Sales have fallen 5.1% in July to almost 182,000. RAV4 dropped 6%. Camry fell 3.2%. Corolla dropped 7.6%. The only one that makes sense to me that has dropped is the Camry, because it is still, switching over from production of the previous generation to the 2025 Plus model. So that makes sense why this is down. Why are sales on the RAV4 down? I'm not quite sure. And even the Corolla, you would think sales would be up on the Corolla as affordability is an issue. People need more affordable cars. Now, they don't mention some other vehicles like the Tacoma being down, like the Grand Highlander being in a stop production, like the Prius being in a stop production and stop sale. Those are absolutely hurting the company. Now, this is sales for the Tacoma, which isn't mentioned in the article that we just talked about, 18,571. And we're going to divide that by last year's July, which was 20,126. That's minus 21% down on the Tacoma. This is the Highlander now, and the Highlander is down 29%. Now, again, that's Indiana East plant. Indiana West plant is still shut down until they have the remedy up and running to fix the airbag situation in the TX and Grand Highlander. It looks like sales are back up. Maybe we're getting shipments in on the fixed Prius at this point, but we can see that it's down massively from about 4,000 units to 1,200 units. And look at the Grand Highlander. Last July was the first big month that it was on sale in 2023. It's down 99%. Of course, they're just not selling anything because it's on a stop sale. So, ouch. Toyota, they're in the weeds right now, and it's no surprise that they have fallen 5.1%. They're kind of actually being propped up right now by Lexus. Lexus has risen 16%. Thanks to the RX, and don't count the RZ in here. RZ is very low volume, and Toyota/Lexus is losing money on the RZ. So don't think that this vehicle, even though it's probably double-digit percentages up, that's not what's making the company money. The RX, the NX, the ES, the IS, those cars are printing money for Lexus right now. The TX is on stop sale. The GX, those are slowly trickling into our market, right? The new J250 based GX 550. Toyota's electrified sales rose 45% compared to those in July. Remember, the Camry is fully hybrid now. This number is going to keep going up. The RAV4 by this time next year could be fully hybrid as well, so stay tuned for that. So if we look at the full tally here, who's doing well after 7 months? Acura still reeling. The TLX is on a big volume shortage, and I'll talk more about that when we get into Honda. Honda, though, still cranking. Honda is being held back by the Acura division, but Honda themselves still cranking, up 10% for June, up 12% for the year. Genesis down 2.1%. They're just barely positive on the year, but they're going in the wrong direction. Hyundai, barely positive, up 4% on the month, only up about 1.5% on the year. If we look at Kia, they're going in the wrong direction. Minus 10% on the month of July, minus 3% on the year. That is really dragging down the Hyundai Kia business. All right, Mazda, what is going on? Mazda is positive 30% for the month of July. That's the big takeaway here. Look at all these other brands really having difficulty selling at a plus compared to last year. And here's little old Mazda, based out of Hiroshima, Japan, plus 30%. They are defying the market right now, plus 13% on the year, but they are heading in the correct direction. Subaru just keeps plugging along. They've had so many months. I think it's been, Subaru has not suffered a monthly sales decline since July of 2022. They're just humming right along. Lexus up 16% on the month, 12% on the year. They are fighting strong, and I wouldn't be surprised if they overtake BMW when this year is all said and done. Lexus absolutely crushing it on the success of their hybrids. So I want to start with Mazda. What is going on? Why are they up 30% when the rest of the market is a mixed bag? So we have plus 30%, like I said, compared to July of 23. Year-to-date sales are up 13%. All right, let's go to their highlights. Best ever July. Oh, ever, all time. Mazda just broke an all-time sales record in the United States for the month of July, almost hitting 40,000 vehicles. Best ever sales of the CX-50. Yes, production's finally getting up to where it needs to be out of the Alabama plant. CX-90, well, this is the first full year it's been on production, so of course that's going to have its best year or best month. And best ever July sales for the CX-30. They're just hitting PR, personal best, personal records. Let's check the sheet here. Mazda 3 up 32% on the month. And look at where the Mazda 3 is this year. I just reviewed both the sedan and the hatchback. And look, it's doing great. Overall, the Mazda 3 is up 20% on the year, 32% on the month. MX-5 is like the only thing dragging down Mazda right now. Not quite sure. Maybe they have reduced production because of the lack of, maybe there's a falling demand on it. It's hard to say, but MX-5 is and will always be one of my favorite cars. So yeah, it's just kind of tough to see it down. CX-30 up 30% on the year, up 20% on the month. CX-5, this is a surprise, but it's getting fixed seemingly. So production has been down in Japan on the CX-5. And it's down 12% on the year, but look, it's heading in the right direction. It's about neutral in the month of July. So yeah, I think the CX-5 is going to have a strong finish to the year. CX-9, rest in peace. And let's look at the CX-50, up 66% on the year, up 90% on the month. The CX-50 is making up for any sort of drop in production that we saw on the CX-5 earlier in the year. Now, both of them crushing it right now on the market. CX-70 just hit, so that's additional volume that they haven't had before. They've sold about 2,000 this year, about 900 this month. So there's some additional volume surplusing this plus 30% compared to last year. CX-90, well, look how much they've sold this year compared to last year. But again, it wasn't on sale the fullness of last year. But regardless, the CX-90 is up 82%. It is one of the most fun to drive 3-row crossovers. And the CX-70 is the same car, just with 2 rows of seats. So Yeah, CX-90 deserves all the success it is getting right now. Even though the MX-5 is not doing well, it's not bringing down the Mazda 3s and the car section too much, but their trucks are up 31% on the month. Mazda has got that special mojo going. They don't even have hybrids in the lineup other than the CX-90 plug-in hybrid, which will also come into effect in the CX-70 plug-in hybrid. And the CX-50 is finally getting a Toyota hybrid in that Toyota Mazda Alabama plant. And the production here is still a shadow of where it could be. Keep this in mind. 43,000 divided by 7 times 12. They're only running at half capacity because the capacity, if they're working at full capacity anyways, at that Alabama plant for Mazda, they could be producing 150,000 CX-50s per year. They're only pacing 74,000. So there's a lot of headroom left for Mazda. And once this hybrid for the CX-50 is widely available, more people are going to keep flocking to Mazda. Mazda, they have avoided CVTs. They have a really good crossover lineup. They don't have the Mazda 6 anymore, unfortunately, but the Mazda 3 is doing well. So it's interesting in a market that's so focused on hybrids right now. They don't have a lot for hybrids, all right? CX-90 and 70 plug-in hybrid, and then their inline 6s are a hybrid as well. Mild hybrid is what they call it. But yeah, very interesting that we're still waiting on their cash cow, the CX-5, to get a hybrid. And that's not stopping Mazda from posting best ever July. All right, we're going to keep moving. I could keep tooting Mazda's horn. They're such a fun, small company, and I'm always rooting for the small guys. American Honda, strong sales, July up 8%. All right, let's look at what's going on for Honda and Acura. Honda's looking really healthy. Acura's struggling for a couple different reasons, but let's get into it. Let's start with the Accord. The Accord is down 20% this year and down, well, let's get the highlighter out for you guys. There where you can see better. Down 21% on the month, down 20% on the year. Why is the Accord down so much? Well, you could say styling, it's boring, it doesn't offer enough features for the money. I get all that, and a lot of people would rather just buy a CRV if they're spending that much money on an Accord. I totally understand. But the Accord's production is greatly hampered right now because it's sharing production with the TLX and the Integra, and both of those production and sales numbers are down as well. Why is that happening? Well, in Ohio, they're consolidating their line one for now, and before the Accord goes to Indiana. In the meantime, the Accord has to split production between, like I said, the two Acura sedans. The other production line there, production line 2, is being completely revamped for BEVs. I'm even hearing the Prelude could be produced there. So it'll be kind of a flex line of hybrids and fully electrics. So that's what's going on with the Accord, the TLX, and the Integra. That's why they're down so much this year. Civic, though, that's the thing. The Civic, unbelievable. It is probably, I wouldn't say without a shadow of a doubt, but no one would argue me if I said the Civic is best in its class. So the Civic up 35% on the year. It's up 17% on the month of June. And look at this volume. This volume here is super impressive. I want to check out what the Corollas do. Remember, the Corolla was down this month. So here we go. The Corolla sold 19,749. I think that's a little bit behind the Civic, right? Civic's eclipsed 20,000. So the Civic is outselling the Corolla right now, which I don't think it's been the case these past few years. So the Civic might beat the Corolla out this year for total compact sedan sales. Go Honda Civic. And now we have the Civic Hybrid. It's such a good product at this point. We have the new and updated Civic Si. Yeah, I'm excited for Honda Civic. The CRV, just crushing it right now. Still around 50% of the CRV and Accord are hybrid at this point, and 40% going forward of the Civic will be hybrid. The CRV, though, big volume. This is one of their major cash cows, 17% up on the year, up 3% on the month. HRV, 33% on the month, 40% on the year. Last year, the past 2 years, they've been trying to get the HRV up to the production that the previous model was at. Now, they make this at the Celaya plant down in Mexico. So I think this is the only Mexican-made Honda that we get that is not the Prologue, which the Prologue, again, is made by General Motors down in Mexico. Honda Odyssey is getting one last refresh before they redesign it, and I should be getting it for a long-term loaner on the channel, so stay tuned for that. But the Honda Odyssey up 32% on the month, having a good year so far. Passport, it's sinking, but it's fine. They're getting a redesign on it. I just reviewed the Ridgeline, and this is down 24% on the year. It's about neutral on the month. We need a redesign on the Ridgeline, despite it being pretty good for what it is. It just needs a big tech boost and a better layout on the interior, but it is still a great pickup truck for city usage. Prologue, it is what it is. It's a very handsome EV. I still haven't driven it, so I'm not going to say anything about it. Pilot is up 20% on the year, 22% on the month. It's just cruising right along, selling in droves. It is the second best-selling SUV at this point. The HR-V is catching it, though. Don't be surprised if the HR-V outpaces... it is outpacing the Pilot so far this year. It's up about 10,000 units over the Pilot. But both of them, I mean, Honda's crossovers and Honda Civic are just crushing it if you're not looking at the Passport. But the Passport is going to redesign soon, so that makes sense. All right, on to Acura, where the bloodbath continues. Minus 20% for the year, roughly, for the Integra, and it's even worse this month, down 26%. ILX, rest in peace. NSX, rest in peace for now. TLX down 56% on the year, minus 62% on the month. There's no reprieve for the TLX at this point. It's just really sad to see this sporty sedan kind of just withered. I don't know what the future holds for the TLX at this point. Remember, Acura will be revealing the ADX sometime this year. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That is going to be an entry-level crossover, probably based off the HR-V. So I'm really excited to see what that vehicle will be like, what engine and powertrains, the transmissions, that sort of thing. Speaking of Acura crossovers, their best-selling 3-row luxury crossover is not doing great. I just did the refresh of 2025. The Type S is really impressive. I can't recommend the more expensive grades of the normal MDX. But if you spend around $55,000 or less on the MDX, I think it's still a good buy on the refresh model. All right. So minus 12% on the month as they switch over to the refresh model, but it's still down 20% on the year. RDX, this is becoming their cash cow, which is interesting. The RDX is really long in the tooth at this point. I want to say it came out in 2018 or 2019. The RDX in its current form, and it's never gotten a Type S, and that's something a lot of people have been clamoring for, and Acura has just kind of been zipping their lip on an RDX Type S. ZDX has sold about 1,000 units so far. Watch my driving impressions on the ZDX. It's, again, a really good EV. EVs just aren't selling that great right now with the current market. And Acura killed off all their hybrids. I think that's another reason why they are down. Like if the MDX had a nice hybrid here, or a couple different hybrid powertrain options, maybe the MDX would be doing better. I'm just not quite sure what's going on there with that model. All right, RDX would be doing even better if it had a hybrid with where the market is sitting right now. All right, let's move on. Let's focus on Subaru. This will be the last Japanese brand. July marks 24 consecutive months of year-over-year, month-over-month growth. Best ever July for Crosstrek. Wow. Crosstrek smashed a record, and Solterra, whatever Solterra, no one cares about that electric car that's based off the Toyota BZ4X. I reviewed it. It's actually a really good EV if you don't plan on taking trips, and if you can get a lease deal around $300 a month. That's fine. It's good. It's good for that. All right. Subaru Ascent. This vehicle, I feel like, is just a matter of time before it's going to be discontinued so that they can make a fully electric 3-row crossover at Toyota's Kentucky plant. But time will tell. Now, the Forester I reviewed earlier this year, really liked it. The powertrain needs about 50 more horsepower, and we're just waiting for that Forester hybrid to come through that is going to be co-developed with Toyota. And when that Forester hybrid is available at high volume, this thing is going to be selling like hotcakes. It's already and still their best-selling vehicle so far this year, but it had a downturn this past month. Not quite sure why it had a rough month of July. The Crosstrek, though, picked up the sales in its wake. The Impreza, down 10%. Remember, the Legacy is pretty much discontinued at this point. This is the last model year, but the Impreza, in my opinion, it's only a matter of time until this vehicle's canceled as well. Sales keep slipping on the hatchback-only Impreza. Outback, still doing well. This has in the past been their best-selling vehicle. This year, it's in second place behind the Forester. This thing prints money for them, the lifted wagon Outback. BRZ, it's down 40% on the year. WRX, not selling well. I think they just came out, didn't they just come out with some sort of ultimate edition on the WRX, like the TS WRX or something, and it was just like, it's way too expensive. And I think it's just, yeah, it's just instant no buy recommendation. So base model WRXs are the way to go if you can find one around $30,000 on discount. But yeah, Solterra, I guess, putting up some impressive numbers based off the past, but still a very low volume vehicle for Subaru. All right, but Subaru just keeps cruising along, keeps posting growth month after month after month. All right, who are we on to next? Let's look at Hyundai. Hyundai's doing okay. 4% up in July, 2% up overall. Elantra hybrid, Santa Fe hybrid, Tucson hybrid, and Palisade all had their best July. And just like Toyota seeing a huge increase in hybrids, Hyundai posting a 67% increase in hybrids. It's good to see their flexibility here as a brand. So even though the Elantra hybrid sales were up and helping them post such a good July, the Elantra is still down on the year, but I think that's going to change. I think Hyundai's realizing people need more affordable vehicles. Ioniq 5, up 25% on the year, but it's starting to get set back here as we look at the month of July. Ioniq 6, heading in the wrong direction. Look, it's up 54% on the year, but look, minus 55% on the month of July. Why are these going down? Well, they're not selling well. They're sitting on the lots a long time. Hyundai's having to incentivize these quite heavily, so they're probably reducing production volume on these. So they're not costing the dealers an arm and a leg. They're not costing Hyundai an arm and a leg to move these. Kona, I'm seeing them everywhere. The new Konas, it's doing really well for them. Palisade, we just mentioned that it just set a best ever July. So the Palisade's printing money for them. Santa Cruz, the pickup truck's minus 10%. And again, if they had a hybrid on this Santa Cruz pickup truck, it would be awesome, but they don't. It's just crickets on it. And then here's a little Ford Maverick, really increasing the price on their base model by like $2,000 or $3,000 on the new refreshed Maverick, and it got uglier, unfortunately. It's got a big screen though, so maybe that's going to entice some people. But yeah, the Maverick getting uglier and getting more expensive, but you can get all-wheel drive on that Maverick. Anyways, the Santa Cruz down 10%. Santa Fe, the redesign, you would think would have a little bit more interest here. Down 9% on the year, down 15%. I'm seeing quite a few new Santa Fe's on the road, but they have, well, the notorious transmission issue. Just watched my buddies over at Car Confections. Mason and Drew had 2 transmission failures on the new Santa Fe Turbo. But the hybrid would be my recommendation out of the two, absolutely. Sonata, who said sedans are dead? The Civic's doing well. The Sonata doing well. Up 79% for the month. Up 21% on the year on the refreshed Sonata. The Tucson. I will be driving the refreshed Tucson very soon by the end of this month. So stay tuned for my driving impressions on the newly refreshed Tucson. And the Venue is down a little bit as well. People need more affordable cars. It's too bad that it's down so much. Looking at Kia. Speaking of down, they are continuing to, well, they posted 2 months in a row. Remember, if we go back to automotive news, Kia dropped 10%. Only the Seltos and Sportage saw increases. Sales of its EVs nearly doubled through July, and we have the EV9, but they're having to spend oodles amount of money to move that gorgeous, I think it's gorgeous, the EV9 boxy 3-row electric crossover. We'll go back to Kia here. And again, they don't break out percentages, so we'll do our best here to compare. Just like we saw with the Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 from Hyundai, we're seeing a big decrease in the month of July for Kia's EV6. No surprise, as EV demand has slumped here in America. Rest in peace, Rio, when the market needs more affordable cars. Kia Forte, up on the year, a little bit down on the month. This is now their entry-level vehicle. Kia K5, really slumping here. Now, there are rumors that the K5 could be replaced, and the Forte will be replaced by the K4, but it's possible that the K4 could replace the K5 as well. Look, Mazda's just getting by with one sedan. Maybe Kia wants to do the same. It's hard to say, but look how much the K5 is down this year. It's about half or less than half. Kia Soul, unfortunately, this is down big on the year as well. Maybe there's not enough demand for it, but people need affordable cars. Kia Niro, hybrids are doing well, but unfortunately, the Niro's down this year. Seltos, I wish this had a hybrid powertrain to it, but the Seltos is cruising along. It's positive so far this year. It's positive on the month. Sportage, positive on the month, positive on the year. They have a hybrid Sportage, and it is a very good hybrid crossover. Sorento, positive on the year, down on the month, heading in the wrong direction. We talked about how the Palisade for Hyundai was crushing it, and it looks like the Telluride is pretty healthy, but they've sold 62,000 Tellurides. If we look at Hyundai, remember they sold it's completely even, 62,000 Palisades. Carnival, now we have a hybrid Carnival. Can't wait to drive it, but the Carnival's down on the month, up on the year, and it'll be interesting to see how most of these models finish out. But Kia having a down month, down 10%. They're down on the year about 15,000 units as well. And so their momentum is definitely slowing. Hyundai's momentum is slowing, even though they're still positive. So let's go back to automotive news. I want to talk about incentives. We're seeing bigger discounts. We're seeing interest rates be really high. And so these manufacturers have to spend a lot of money to offer more competitive interest rates to get the buyer to bite on a deal. Check this out. The average incentive per new vehicle increased 52% from July 23 to nearly $3,000 in July of 24. Some brands are even waiving payments for 90 days. The last time we saw this was when the pandemic just started. They're offering 0% financing. They're offering 3 months. You don't have to pay a payment. That's crazy. And no interest accruing on that, I don't believe either. So look at that, what the industry is going through right now due to the uncertainty of the future with the economy. Buick is dangling almost 1% financing on the Envision. Jeep is offering $4,000 in cash towards the purchases of Grand Cherokees. But keep in mind, that's just incentives. The dealers as well. I'm hearing from you guys saying that, hey, I'm seeing deals on full-size pickup trucks, $10,000+ off of MSRP. I know that's happening on some EVs out there as well. And look, from June to July, incentives have risen nearly $200 per vehicle. And leasing is going up. Interesting. So we see leasing going up 4 percentage points compared to last year's July. And average transaction prices have fallen 2.6%, or nearly $1,200 to still a way too high $44,000 from July of 2023. Just 14.5% of new vehicles were sold above sticker price last month. Last July, over 32% were buying cars over sticker price. I don't think the rest of the year can get better for Toyota. Yes, production for the Grand Highlander and TX will come online. Yes, they'll be able to ramp up production a little bit better on the Land Cruiser, the GX, and the Prius, but they're still seeing some setbacks, and I don't think they're going to be able to finish at plus 11% where they're standing at right now. But if Lexus keeps churning along, this could be one of the best years Lexus has ever had in the history of the company. They could retake that #1 spot that they haven't had since maybe the mid-2010s. Subaru's still cruising, but for how long? Mazda crushing a July sales record. I just don't understand how well they're doing. But Mazda offers a ton of bang for your buck, beautiful designs, no CVTs, traditional gas-powered cars with minimal hybrids in their lineup, and people are surprisingly not scared to get into a Mazda. They like that built in Japan, or a lot of them are built in Japan, right? I think that's helping them with having a unique identity, gorgeous styling, and great bang for your buck. Hyundai and Kia, they're heading in the wrong direction, mainly because Kia is pulling them down. Their EVs have been pulling them down as well. We'll keep seeing their EV volume probably this year keep going down based off of last year, as we saw a big turnaround in the month of July with their EVs. Acura is still going to be the sore spot for Honda. Honda's going to keep cruising along on the strength of their hybrid models, especially now that the Civic is hybrid. But Acura could have the benefit of having the ADX come online later this year and help out their ailing sales numbers. But I'm going to shut it down there. The industry is heading into extremely uncertain waters at this point in time. The economy is slowing down. Interest rates are still way too high. Sticker prices are still way too high. And I don't know what's going to happen. I honestly think that these manufacturers in the near term will have to prioritize models that cost less money. And maybe even the long term as well. Prioritize models that cost less money. The average sticker price around $42,000, I think is what it's at right now, is still too high for the average customer. And yeah, with high interest rates, it's not helping the situation. But what do I know? I'll see you guys down below where you think the market is heading, with some of the big players seeing some turnarounds, mainly Toyota and Kia seeing some big dropbacks already, but we don't have numbers for Stellantis. We don't have numbers for Nissan. I know those companies are not doing so strong right now in mid-2024. And I know Ford is bleeding billions over EVs, and General Motors is still trying to figure out the whole EV transition as well. Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day and peace.